those who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Research shows that an emotionally present male partner is the single biggest predictor of a happy, healthy marriage.
Give me a break.
That I just played with.
The first round is for 6 minutes, and we have Ms. Lewis. Good morning and welcome for the first round of 6 minutes.
And thank you for being here today. Across the country, municipalities are being encouraged to approve new housing developments, but many of these communities simply do not have the infrastructural capacity to support housing developments. My riding of Haldeman Norfolk, which is a rural riding, for example, has a development in a town called Port Dover, and that has been stalled because of insufficient water capacity and wastewater capacity to support the approved housing. Does the development track how many housing units across Canada have been approved but cannot proceed because of insufficient infrastructure, such as water, wastewater, and power?
Thank you very much for the question. I don't have that actual number with me. I would say the number is high. We certainly know that it is a principal issue identified by municipalities, and that is why we are delivering the Community Housing Infrastructure Fund, which actually has as its sole objective to increase the water infrastructure to enable housing developments to move forward. And to date, we have actually done, there's 2 streams to that, one of which is a direct delivery stream that actually has allowed for 190,000 potential units to be built. So it's contributing to improving that capacity.
And I thank you very much for that honest answer, because I think it's obvious to municipalities like counties like mine that it's the federal government is encouraging municipalities and approving housing even though there is insufficient infrastructure to sustain those homes. And that causes a lot of friction within the community, because you have developers wanting to build and then you have those saying, well, we don't even have enough infrastructure for the existing homes. So even though the government makes announcements to approve housing builds, you can't start building those homes because the supporting infrastructure just doesn't exist. Isn't it a fact that the federal government currently doesn't have any single coordinated program, even though you have these programs that you've announced? You don't have any way of coordinating and integrating housing approvals with the infrastructural requirements that are needed across the country.
So the municipal levels is obviously where housing approvals happen, right? That's where permitting takes place. I would say we do actually do a lot of coordination with both provincial governments and municipalities to understand where their housing infrastructure needs are. I mean, that's largely what we've done through these programs. Typically, we don't, municipalities won't approve new housing zone permits unless they know that the infrastructure is going to be there. So we have, as we have been running the programming, a real keen eye on where those municipalities want to build out. And there's a lot of dialogue going back and forth. And I would say, so the department largely does that sort of traffic control. We do it with CMHC, and we're now doing it with Build Canada Homes as well.
Okay, so you've stated that that something does exist. Is there a name for this coordinated program? And how does this program ensure accountability across municipalities that these funding announcements are actually translating into housing starts?
So we don't have a program name for this. I mean, this is Housing Infrastructure Communities Canada. This is part of the mandate of the department. We have a policy lead on housing, and the government has put housing and infrastructure together for exactly the reasons that you outlined. So it's sort of it's our day job. It's not just one unit inside of the organization that looks at that.
Okay, let's turn to something which is also very important that people are very concerned about, and that's affordability in housing. The average housing cost in Canada has risen dramatically over the past decade, And for many Gen Zs and millennial Canadians, the dream of owning a home seems increasingly out of reach to them. How does this government expect the dream of owning a home to remain attainable for the next generation, especially when housing starts are so low and the supply is so low, and largely because of infrastructural funding? How does the government expect for that dream to become a reality?
So I want to just acknowledge at the outset that you're absolutely right that it has become harder for especially younger Canadians to make the down payments. We've seen the number of weeks increase that people have to save in order to make their down payment. So 100% agree with you in terms of your assessment, your diagnosis. And I think that's been largely what has motivated investments that the government has made federally and provincial and municipal governments. Like, I think it's important to recognize it's a shared accountability across different levels of government. And so provinces have made investments, municipalities have made investments, and federal government has made extensive investments both through the housing plan that was put out most recently with Build Canada Homes, the National Housing Strategy that goes back a decade, and then obviously policy initiatives like what we've seen through targeted tax relief. GST.
And these policy initiatives, how many units does the department estimate will actually enable those infrastructural investments? How many units do you project to come out of those policies?
To just specifically on infrastructure investments? Or?
Yes.
As I mentioned, the program that we have is the Community Housing Infrastructure Fund, and our estimates are just through the direct delivery projects that we've done, which is around 65 projects, that it's over 191,000 potential units. Most of the money went to provinces, so they are the ones who now select and determine what are the projects. So we'll know as we review the projects, approve them, how much inventory, how much potential housing they're adding in.
So there's no preset number of housing.
Thank you.
Each 6 minutes, and we begin with Mr. Redicott.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all the witnesses for being here today. Madam Brassard, I want to start with you. I want to talk. You said that the file review process was not related to the Auditor General's report in 2019. Yet that seems to be when it was initiated. Can you clarify that for me?
As I said, the process existed since 1993. So it was called different ways, and it had different names, but it was not. So it existed for a long time.
Okay, so it did not start in 2019. It started in 1993, from what you said.
In one form or the other.
Okay, so now I just want to focus on the low risk part of this because. In that Auditor General's report, they mentioned that they suggested that you optimize procedures based on low risk countries. And yet the list of countries that was published at that time had a lot of countries on there that to me are not low risk, like Afghanistan, Iran, Russia, Syria, North Korea, these kinds of countries. So how do you define low risk?
Well, I wasn't there when the initial, that list that you're
talking. Are you responsible for the department?
I'm responsible for the board, sir. So, and I'm really happy to do that. So, yes, let me go back to the list of countries and claim types that I'd
my
like
question,
to go back
to repeat the question, it's not necessarily the countries that are there, but the countries that I listed, to me, they don't sound like low-risk countries, and yet you're claiming that they are low-risk countries. Can you clarify that?
Well, you mentioned
North Korea.
North Korea does not have
Iraq, Syria.
Sorry, maybe I'll step in on North Korea has never been a less complex country. We actually take the position that North Koreans can be considered for citizenship in South Korea, so it has actually never been part of that list.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I have the list from 2019.
Sit
it says
down.
Less complex claims in North Korea is on that list. Is this wrong? Is this document wrong?
We've never approved a less complex claim from North Korea. We, in fact, only have 2 claims in our entire inventory on North Korea.
So this document from IRB was incorrect then, is what you're saying? So
it was potentially an evaluation done at the time, and that evaluation may have changed over time.
So is there a current list now? Is there a list of these countries?
We don't look at it from this perspective. As I mentioned earlier, we look at country and country types, and claim types, and we look at acceptance rate of 80% at full hearing as a starting point. And so there's never a real established list. It's a guide to look at where the kinds of countries that we would be considering.
So based on what? Is you're looking at less risk based on what?
If the acceptance rate is 80% at the full hearing.
Let me stop you right there. Acceptance rate of what? Of all people?
Of the claimants from that country.
So it is country-based then?
Well, we look at the country.
Like it's
and
either
we look-
country-based or it's not country-based.
Well, it's
You're
not
telling me
only
both things there.
country-based.
So you said it's not country-based, and now you just said it's country-based. So which is it?
It's a gong show.
We look at the claims that we have. And then we look at the acceptance rates, and the easier way to start is country and then claim types. Because claim types will vary from each country within a country. And some claim types could get high acceptance rate, and others just about never accepted.
So what's a claim type?
A claim type, for instance, it can be whether religion. Is the group persecuted because they're Christian in the country or because they're apostate? So that's a claim type.
So all. How do you know? So you're saying that all Christians from Afghanistan is a certain category, and if those people, as an example, would be automatically approved. Is that what you're saying?
We're saying let's take that example. So we know from the documentary evidence that Christians in certain countries are facing hardships and persecution. So that's a starting point to look at it. But I stated 4 or 5 criteria, and we need to go through all of them to decide whether that claim would effectually.
Let's go to a different place here.
Yeah.
Rules 26 and 27 of the Refugee Protection Division rules require that an asylum hearing must be halted if issues arise relating to fraud, false identities, war crimes, serious criminality, etc. Is that correct?
1 minute.
Yes, we have to, and we do. When we see something, we say something, and that's why we will stop the hearing and
right.
ask
So this
the
rule
members
exists
to,
so that the Minister of Public Safety or the Minister of Immigration can intervene to protect Canada's national security if something arises during the hearing, correct?
When it does during the hearing, we inform the minister.
And under the file review policy, refugee claims can be accepted without a hearing and without any questioning of the claim. Is that correct?
If the minister did not intervene.
Okay, and so if no hearing takes place and no questions are asked, the notification mechanism for those ministers in Rules 26 and 27 cannot be triggered. Is that right?
The minister has, and my colleagues can testify to that, they will look at the claims before it even gets to the IRB, before they refer it to the IRB. If they detect issues around security, if they detect issues around identity, they can tell us, and they do tell us that when they decide to intervene. And when that's the case, it doesn't go to the paper process.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brassard and Mr.
Well, I'll turn it over now to Mr. Balsillie. You have up to 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you for the invitation to appear today. Your study is important and timely. I encourage you to also include economic considerations in this nexus because the economy and our security are two sides of the same coin. Canada's policy thinking remains rooted in the 1970s, an economy that no longer exists, which has caused a systemic erosion of our prosperity and productivity over the past 35 years. Recent strategic actions of leverage against Canada by multiple large nation states have laid bare that our sovereignty and security were concurrently eroding over the same period because of this outdated thinking. The digital transformation over the past 35 years has created a new kind of economy in which wealth, power, and security are rooted in the ownership of intangible assets of IP and data AI. These assets behave differently in the market than tangible goods and require different strategies. As shown in Appendix 1, they have grown to dominate, making up over 92% of the S&P 500's $55 trillion total value. As summarized in Appendix 2, The tangible and intangible economies operate in opposite ways, with the intangible economy of negative rights and economic rents governed by domestic and international frameworks that are constantly changing to create winners and losers, thus incenting strategic behavior, including leverage. I will summarize the examples I present in the ensuing appendices, where the US, EU, and China have developed sophisticated capacity and strategies to utilize these legal frameworks to advance their prosperity and security via value-added products and process technologies in the realms of defense and critical minerals. Then I conclude what Canada needs to do urgently. In Appendix 3, I list examples of how in 2025 the U.S. advanced their interests via legal frameworks, such as their AI White Paper, Genius Act for tokenization, an array of tariffs, and the flexing of IP march-in rights. In Appendix 4, I summarize how the U.S. national security strategy integrated these into one document, illuminating the role of strategic standards, adding resource security, including critical minerals, and much more. In Appendix 5, I show that while we were aware of the recent high-profile U.S. exit from 66 international organizations, they doubled down their participation in 3 international standards organizations that govern value chains for advanced products and process technologies for critical mineral and defense sectors and many other sectors as well. In Appendix 6, I note how the U.S. Patent Office concurrently created a working group to create and insert more patents from their SMEs into global standard organizations and by extension into global value chains, all to lock in and profitably grow their companies. Appendices 7 and 8 illuminate aggressive U.S. tokenization strategies for both financial and real-world assets, including critical minerals and mines. Appendix 9 summarizes how the EU uses standards, particularly via CENELEC, for the value chains for defense and critical minerals, just like the US and China do. Appendices 10 and 11 show soaring granting of patents for mining, defense, and AI, with Canada essentially absent. Appendix 12 summarizes how China has strategically built dominance in critical mineral value chains of processing, patents, and standards alongside traditional supply chains of mines. As you can see, Canada requires a wholesale reorientation of how a sovereign nation must be governed in the 21st century economy if we want greater global scale from our promising companies and gifted entrepreneurs. The strategies I have identified today are all and strategies, not or strategies, when it comes to capitalizing our natural resources, but they are technical and require expertise. Absent these updated approaches, Canada will again not achieve better outcomes for Canadians. The November federal budget and the recent defense industrial strategy were missed opportunities to reorient away from failed approaches in the past. I will close with a quote from an expert in an article stating that in this modern economy, FDI should not be an article of faith, because without shrewd insertion into value chains of intangibles, a country can host large foreign-owned production facilities and impressive export volumes while capturing only a thin slice of the value created. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Balsillie. Those for members, I know the report that Mr. Balsillie, first round of questions, and we're going to start with Mr. Anderson. Over to you for 6 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. This question is for Dr. Exner-Perot, Mr. Balsillie. I'd like you to answer it, as well as Mr. Boyd of hard power, but we do have some soft power and we can use those as leverage. So with respect to critical and rare earth minerals, my primary concern is the monitoring of foreign ownership. Is the current 20 to 25...
I would say control is a complex thing, and as I said, FDI should be carefully monitored, not only for economic spillovers, but for security spillovers. I would also say that owning the minerals does not in and of itself give you leverage if you do not own the ability to turn them into something. So it is the beginning of the potential for leverage, but in and of itself, it's not leverage.
Thank you much. Dr. Exner-Perot?
Yeah, I wish I could say it doesn't depend on the context, because sometimes people just need a number that they can work with and be predictable. But it kind of depends on the context. And I would think probably the most susceptible are junior miners and small projects. And if they, are looking for investment and they would take it from anywhere they can get, where they may not go ahead. If they don't get some investment from some kind of investor, then I think they're susceptible to Chinese investment. And then the other aspect is for some of these niche metals that we talked about, China has a basic monopoly on the process and refining. So at some point you have to work with some Chinese interests because they're going to be the only person taking your offtake. And so I don't want to do this on a case by case, but 20%, I think Australia does 10% as a threshold. And I think it's much different depending on the size and whether it's publicly owned or privately owned. But absolutely that this is a way that the Chinese have used to influence junior mining operations. And I think another, a consequence of that people are concerned about, if you did have a project, for example, in the Arctic, and there was Chinese influence, that they could, for example, use their leverage to do, monitoring or jamming or have some presence in the Arctic that might interfere, for example, with NORAD.
More broad-based questions, Mr. Boyd. Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would agree with Heather. It's context, and a lot of this will depend on the opportunity and the deposit and the importance of the deposit to the country. So I think we're the beneficiary of a foreign investment review, which resulted in us owning a project on our northwest coast, which we talked about in Hope Bay. So this was important to ensure that property, given its location and its benefit to the region, was in Canadian hands. So we're the beneficiary of that. So when you look at critical metals, though, I think you have to balance the need for capital, the need for skills, in the context of, can this project be an important part of the country's economic future? So you have to weigh and measure that. And I think as the government looks at that, it should also take into consideration the skills that exist in the country in moving those particular projects forward. And it also bears on where the country plans to invest in infrastructure. As we open up new areas, we should be mindful of where those critical projects are and the impact that the infrastructure is going to have on those investments and making them more investable, and understanding where the ownership currently lies with those major projects.
Now move to the second round for 5 minutes each, starting with Ms. Kuzi.
Thank you. In Volume 3, Mr. Halucha, of the 2025 Public Accounts under the category of losses of public money and property, the public accounts show that your department, specifically CMHC, lost $231,840 in a single case of fraudulent claims of grants and contributions. Are you familiar with this case?
I'm not familiar, and just to clarify, CMHC is not my department.
Okay, so then you wouldn't know if any of this money has been recovered by this fraudulent claim?
I wouldn't know. I'm very glad to follow up with CMHC and if allowed, provide back that answer.
Was your department captured under the Comprehensive Expenditure Review?
Yes, the department was captured.
Okay. It was communicated that one of the ways the government would meet the CER was by reducing reliance and spending on professional services. Did your department receive instructions to cut spending on consulting?
We did. As part of the expenditure review, that was not a specific direction that we received.
Why do the main estimates propose an increase of $62 million on consulting from 2025-2026 at HICC?
So I'll answer it. So basically, we are a small department, and we have a lot of our expenditures which are temporary. And so we use consulting, especially on the IT side, in order to avoid having to make long-term obligations, take on long-term obligations by way of employees that we're not able to reduce, or we have to reduce at great cost. So it's a way of managing in uncertainty, as I would describe it.
Okay. This is something that we've seen quite continuously with the Liberal government over the last 11 years, is that they indicate they're going to spend less money on consulting, and this never is the case. We saw this with ArriveCan, for example. We saw this with the previous Treasury boards. objective to cut spending on consultants, which didn't occur. The current Prime Minister has indicated that he will try and spend less money on consultants, and yet there is this increase of $62 million. How would you explain to Canadians or I should say, how would you expect them to believe that your department will actually reduce spending as the government has promised if at the first opportunity to spend, you're increasing these amounts on consulting?
So we are reducing expenditures in the department, and actually the savings will be $2.9 billion over 4 years. We've reduced by approximately 190 FTEs, and so those do account for real reductions. Our consultant envelope, Michelle, can I ask you just to add on?
Yes, just to add the ratio, we've been trying to change the ratio of employees to consultants. So back in 24-25, our ratio was about 50-50. And now we're at 60-40, so 60% employees and 40% consultants. So, but we do rely on consultants for mainly research and IT as well, information technology.
Okay. So if CMHC is not under your purview, whose purview are they under, please?
So they have a CEO, they have a board of directors, and they report directly to the minister.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Robertson.
there's no communication with yourself and the head of CMHC?
There is communication.
Okay, then do you not communicate about these losses at all, or what?
So I was never brought up to me the losses that were
Okay, so would this be an organization that is in tandem with you, in parallel with you? It's not under you directly?
Yes, a Crown Corporation. So CMHC is arm's length. As I mentioned, they have their own corporate board, and they have a CEO.
Okay. Are their finances, would they report to you at all, anything relative to their finances, or just do you share the same minister?
We share the same minister.
Okay,
yeah,
then how does the minister coordinate your activities?
Well, so there's we have a portfolio affairs group that manages things like appointments, the approvals of corporate plans. That does that sort of corporate governance oversight on behalf of the government. But from a policy perspective, we're engaged with CMHC pretty regularly in terms of their programs. Obviously, they have a commercial book as well. That's not led out of our department at all. That's led out of the Department of Finance. So I should note, actually, on their commercial book, they report to the Minister of Finance, and on their programs, they report to Minister Robertson.
Thank you. Mr. Osborne for 5.
Madame Brassard, I'd like to start with you. What is the name of the alleged IRGC official whose identity the IRB hid, as reported on February 6, 2026?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I would like to know the name of the IRGC official that appeared before you and was reported in the Global News Report on February the 6th, 2026.
That does not ring a...
It's a Global News Report, and basically it says a suspected high-ranking Iranian official caught living in Canada appeared at his deportation hearing on Thursday of that week, and the IRB deemed it necessary to not divulge his name.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to know his name.
I don't know his name.
You don't know his name.
I don't.
Your department was there. They're the ones.
Yeah, but I don't know the name of every single person who makes the claim.
This does not ring a bell with you?
Yeah, well, the case does. The name, I don't know.
You don't know that.
And the name is confidential.
Why?
Why is the IRB prioritizing the privacy, then, of an alleged member of a terrorist organization over the safety of Iranian Canadians?
You mentioned alleged.
Then why hide his name?
Well, if they... hypothetically...
Well, let me talk facts, not hypothetically. Okay. I represent a community of probably the region where the highest population of Iranian Canadians are living in Canada. That's the Richmond Hill area. And there are these folks out there that came into the country that should never have been allowed here in the first place, that are basically terrorizing people in the community. They should not be here in the first place. And it appears the IRB has taken a position to not disclose their names. Does the IRB grant the same level of anonymity to other terrorist organizations, say like ISIS or Al-Qaeda? Or is it just specific for the Iranian community?
The legislation provides, generally speaking, that when someone makes a refugee claim, that claim becomes in camera, and we have to protect the identity of refugee claimant in all the hearings that appear before us. So generally speaking, that could be the reason.
Okay, but do you not see the need to protect the community? The community needs to know who these people are walking amongst them.
We apply the law, sir, the way it is written right now.
Of the hundreds of thousands of pending asylum claims, how many belong to individuals with alleged ties to the IRGC?
Well, I don't have a number to give you right now.
So do we know how many are in the queue for deportation?
That would be a question for CBSA.
Well, the CBSA has located 26 that merit deportation hearings. Maybe I'll ask that question to Mr. Bush. How many are in the queue for deportation with ties to the IRGC?
I don't have the specific data on me, but I can take that away and try and get that data for you.
Okay. Could one of you answer why there has only been one deportation in almost 4 years?
I can't, like I said, I don't have the data in front of me, so it's hard to answer your question without the specific data on those cases.
So back to you, Ms. Broussard. Is it acceptable to you to just have like one person deported in 4 years from the list of people that you deem should be deported?
I have no comments to make on that. You'll understand that once we've made our decision, it is out of our hands what happens after.
Look, the CBSA found Afshin Pernoun. They alleged this 50-year-old was not allowed in Canada because he was deemed a political asset. Yet the IRB said he did not exert significant influence and allowed him to stay. What is the threshold? What's the IRB's threshold for significant influence if a 22-year official in the Iranian regime does not meet it?
30 seconds.
It depends on the degree of involvement that official has in the decision-making of their government. And that is something framed very much so by the federal court, and that's what we apply.
Should regime backers promoting and executing IRGC business be allowed to stay in Canada, in your opinion?
We apply the legislation as it is, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Menegakis. Thank you, Madame Broussard.
Thank you, Mr. Deschênes. Thank you, Madame Broussard. Next, we have
Rempel Garner.
Thank you, Chair. To Ms. Broussard, the law says under IRPA, right, Section 130 or 166, I believe, is that proceedings before your division must be made in public. Is that correct?
Not for the refugee claimants.
But actually, Section 166 does say that, right? Any division?
I don't have the act with me.
I do. It does. Okay. So the next thing is that the story my colleague mentioned said that before arriving in Canada, the Iranian citizen was a senior member of his government, according to the Border Services Agency, which asked your division or your board to order his expulsion. To Mr. Bush, would your agency have recommended deportation based on those grounds without significant evidence? Like, would you have told the IRB that he should be deported, this person should be deported because he was a senior member of the Iranian government if you didn't have evidence to that effect? Would you have made that up?
So thank you for your question. What I will tell you is the process of it all. So the officer...
I'm just, yes or no? Would you have evidence?
Yes.
Okay. So, Ms. Broussard, in what universe would you go against Section 166 of the law, of your law, and withhold this person's identity from the public? Why would you do that?
Madam Chairperson, if I can just specify, actually, Section 166 of the law specifies that all proceedings before the Refugee Protection Division and Refugee Appeal Division are held in the absence of the public, so confidential. And any claim before the Immigration Division.
This is a deportation hearing, though, right?
Please.
Point of order, Madam
any,
Chair.
Any
Point of
case
order, sorry, Mr. Zuberi.
I'm just hoping to hear the full answer from the.
I'm hoping to use my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zuberi.
The time. Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, if I can just clarify for the Immigration Division, all proceedings before the Immigration Division are also held in the absence of the public if they involve a refugee claimant. So, or if the member orders a confidentiality order. So not all.
Okay, so here we are. So this
issues
person,
before the Immigration Division.
this member of the Iranian regime wanted his hearing in public and you or in private, and you guys granted it. Why? What possible interest would that serve the public, whose gyms are being shot up by these guys right now? Why would that serve the public's interest? Like, I mean, you're saying you don't even know who this person is, and now you can't tell us why this would be in the public interest to withhold his identity from reporters?
The legislation says that we withhold identity when the claimant, if the person makes a claim to refugee status.
Why would you protect the identity of a senior Iranian government official in Canada on a deportation order requested by the CBSA? That's crazy.
Okay, well, that's your view. The way we present.
No, I think that's the public's view.
Okay.
I think that's logic. Is it not your view?
My view is we have to apply the legislation as it is.
No, you made a decision to hold this in private. Why?
Because it was the member's decision to look at the evidence.
You said you didn't even know who this guy was.
Point of order.
I don't need to know who the
Point of order,
claimant
Mr.
is.
Fredriscatos.
Again, we're trying to hear the answer, and we cannot.
Okay, let's give time for Ms. Brassard to give her response, please.
Thank you. When the department comes and asks for somebody to.
Okay, I've heard enough.
Okay.
The second thing.
No,
it's
Ms.
my time.
Rempel-Garner.
It's my time. The next thing I would like to ask is this. Ms. Brassard, would a former director under Iran's Ministry of Roads and Urban Development, who was a 22-year civil servant with ties to the Iranian regime and described as a political asset of the regime, would they be considered a senior official under the law and be ordered to be deported?
Depends on the nature of the evidence adduced.
Do you think
during
that
the
they
hearing.
should be considered a senior official?
It depends on the nature of the evidence.
Mr.
1 minute
Bush,
left.
Mr. Bush, would it be easier for your department to deport Iranian officials, people with ties to the regime, if the law was changed to clarify that non-citizens with ties to the regime would be deemed inadmissible if involved in regime-linked businesses, spreading propaganda, or human rights abuses? I'm thinking of cases like there was a guy that was the head of the Iranian state-funded newspaper, was the deputy political leader of the Friday Imams Policy-Making Council, the supreme leader's head of office in the UAE, and has not been deported. Would maybe changing the law make your job a little easier there, Bud?
I'll leave the questions of changing the law to Parliament. But in terms...
I'm trying to make a suggestion to change the law because it seems crazy to me that I'm arguing with the head of the IRB that we should be protecting the identity of a senior Iranian official when members of the Iranian diaspora communities are having their businesses shot up in Canada.
Thank you, Ms. Rempel-Garner. Thank you, Mr. Bush. Next, we go to
Mr. Stevenson for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm going to go off on... First, I've got a bunch of questions, but I'll start with some of the things you'd said earlier. Can you tell me, is there an MOU with Alberta?
Sorry, an MOU with Alberta?
Yes.
With Build Canada Homes or
to rural?
Absolutely. So we have rural programming targets in almost all of our programming, and I'd be glad to run through results if it's helpful to you.
I guess it's not so much results as looking at this point as what's the programming to get them into it, not what's done.
Okay.
My specific issue at this point is my riding is Yellowhead. I had Jasper. I had fires. They were destroyed a third of the town, 300 units. they have now got up to maybe 20% of actually under construction. And there was a big announcement on Thursday that they were going to spend $14 million. Now, it said federal, and now I'm not exactly sure if that was under your department specifically, because it was announced by the Minister of Emergency Preparedness. Now,
we have made investments in Jasper.
You have, but can you elaborate on that? Because whether you're talking about the separate from the $14 million that they just announced on Thursday that they're going to do, and it goes to your affordability that we just talked about with non-market housing. But is it specific on that end of it to non-market, or is it how are you going on the other investments that you say that have gone there?
Well, if I can be helpful, we can get back to you in the committee with details on Jasper, but I'll give you just a couple of examples. So, for example, under the National Housing Strategy overall, communities under 30,000 were identified, and there's rural streams. Under our ISIP program, there's rural streams. We've established in almost every program, and I've got a list of here about 10 or 12 of them, where there were specific carve-outs to make sure that we were.
I'll just start. I look forward to taking a few questions, but I'll just start by wishing Prime Minister Takaichi happy birthday. Sure. It is her birthday today. We had a pre-birthday celebration at the end of a very constructive and interesting dinner last night. But alors, on peut prendre quelques questions maintenant. Alors,
always with the
yep.
French.
Please.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for this opportunity. I'm Sarkhan Johar from Daily Education.
Okay.
So my question for you is about social media security.
Could you?
So to protect children from social media harmful apps,
right.
Companies have started introducing a ban for children under 16. Do you think Canada could also do the same thing?
Well, that's the word, necessity, because of their large robust.
Make the city safe for all residents, and that might include asylum seekers, people without status.
Back in 2017, under the Cordero administration, the city of Montreal unanimously approved a motion declaring itself a sanctuary city. 1 year later, the Plante administration got rid of the title and established what's called the Access Without Fear policy. It was meant to give migrants with uncertain legal status access to various services free of charge and in a confidential manner, without having to worry about being reported to authorities.
It is extremely difficult. We have housing crisis, we have the affordability crisis, and undocumented and precarious status migrants are on the forefront of that. Why? Because they're very often denied work permits.
They are there, except that they don't have any rights. They don't have any rights, so they are being exploited. So we want them to have dignity and freedom.
Go back to where you're from, be exploited there.
Expert believes Montreal is flirting with the idea of being a sanctuary city, but not fully committing.
So Montreal can do all kinds of really important things around being, a sanctuary city in spirit. If we think about being welcoming and accommodating, but if it doesn't specifically restrict police from sharing information, then it's limited. It's taking on sanctuary in a particular frame.
The Canadian Border Services Agency says it does engage with police forces like the Montreal Police Department when they encounter people who have been previously deported and are subject to immigration warrants. Montreal police confirm they work with the CBSA in cases related to crime, but say they are not mandated to investigate people's immigration status or conduct immigration-related operations.
A lot of people are scared to do day-to-day activities because of the presence of police, the potential of
anniversary. Pro Missisquoi is proud of you.
The honourable member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been running the country for close to a year, and so far is turning out to be another Liberal disaster. Just on the horizon, the time to act is now before the land gets destroyed. But instead, the Liberals ignored science and common sense and denied the emergency use application. But it doesn't stop there. Then came the ridiculous traceability regulations that no producer wants and no trading partner is asking for. Ranchers are rightfully outraged. The last thing they need is added uncertainty while CFIA waits for a new chance to impose more costs and red tape. But it doesn't stop there either, because the same Ag Minister is shutting down research centres that are vital for the future of the industry. They brought high returns for a century, and their loss will jeopardize the next generation of farmers. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is just another politician in a long line of Liberals who fail to understand the West and respect the hardworking farmers driving our national economy. The buck stops with the Prime Minister, and Canadians deserve better than Justin Trudeau 2.0.
The honourable member for Brampton Centre.
Today on International Women's Day, we celebrate the leadership, resilience, and achievements of women and girls across Canada and the world. Nearly a century ago, 5 determined women, known as the Famous Five, asked a question that today may seem obvious. Are women considered persons under the Canadian law? At that time, the answer from Canada's highest court was no. Refusing to accept that, they carried their fight to the British Privy Council, leading to the historic decision that finally recognized women as persons under the law. It was a turning point that reshaped our democracy. Soon after, Agnes MacPhail made history as the first woman elected to this House. Today, that progress continues, and in this Parliament, 104 women serve as members of Parliament and 17 serve in Cabinet. But while we celebrate these milestones, we must also recognize that there is still important work to be done to achieve true equality. Mr. Speaker, happy International Women's Day.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
As we celebrate International Women's Day, I speak not only as Member of Parliament, but as a mother to 2 daughters and a grandmother to 5 granddaughters. Watching the women in my family grow has taught me that strength does not look the same in every season of life. Sometimes it is bold and confident, other times it is quiet, steady, and carried through long days and hard moments. I think of the women who came before us, who pushed through barriers so often without recognition, and who built the foundation that allows so many of us to stand here today. I also think of the women around us now, raising families, leading workplaces, caring for loved ones, volunteering in their communities, and holding everything together in ways that are rarely seen, but always felt. And I think of the girls growing up now, including my granddaughters, who deserve to grow up knowing they are valued, respected, and capable of shaping their own future. International Women's Day is about recognizing the women who shape our lives, our communities, and our country every single day. Thank you to women everywhere.
The honourable member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers have a rich, diverse culture that is unique in the world. Our creators have produced music, films, literature, and performing arts that cannot be found anywhere else in the world, and all of these extraordinary works are the result of wonderful visionary pioneers who've captured the soul of our people. We should thank them every day and celebrate their creations at all times. Unfortunately, it's often when they leave us that we measure their contribution and pay tribute to them. We've lost another one of our giants, Jacques Michel, from Abitibi-Témiscamingue, who created popular music that's both universal and fiercely Québécois. Songs like Pas besoin de frapper, Un nouveau jour va se lever, Amène-toi chez nous, Salut Léon. These works marked Quebec's entry into the modern world. They are monumental. For your work, for your love of Quebec, for your kindness and generosity, thank you, Jacques Michel. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I offer our condolences to his family and to all those who loved and admired him. And now, Mr. Speaker, I invite everyone to take 5 minutes to listen to his music again. You'll thank me for it.
The honourable member for Tayakon Parkdale High Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to congratulate Penpat Tsering on his decisive re-election as Sikyong, or leader of the Central Tibetan Administration, Tibet's government in exile. More than 51,000 Tibetans in 27 countries voted in this election, a testament to the strength of Tibetan democracy. The hunger of Tibetans for self-determination, a right unanimously recognized by this House in 2024, is also on display on the streets tomorrow morning in Tayakon Parkdale High Park. Tibetan Canadian youth, students, and women's activists will begin a walk from Parkdale to the Chinese consulate to mark the Tibetan National Uprising. On March 10, 1959, tens of thousands of Tibetans in Lhasa rose up in peaceful opposition to occupation and were met with a brutal crackdown, claiming countless lives and forcing His Holiness the Dalai Lama and generations of Tibetans into lifelong exile. Inside Tibet, Tibetans are suffering a new form of oppression through colonial-style residential boarding schools that are depriving as many as 1 million young Tibetans from connection to their family, language, and culture. Canada joins Tibetans and supporters around the world, guided by the Dalai Lama and his middle way approach and steadfast support for Tibetans' right to self-determination.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Speaker, last week, 3 different synagogues were shot at in the Toronto area. There was always conflict abroad, but it never spilled onto Canada's streets like under this Liberal government. The Liberals politicized the Middle East. Add to that their soft on crime agenda, and it's no longer safe for Canada's Jewish community. Please save the tweets and the empty platitudes, or Bill C-9, which will do nothing for the Jewish community. Deal with the terrorists in our streets and enforce existing laws. Now an Iranian activist is missing, and police fear that he is murdered. Hundreds of IRGC agents safely reside in Canada. That's because Liberal immigration minister after Liberal immigration minister failed to protect our borders. Because Liberal public safety minister after Liberal public safety minister failed to deport them. When will this Liberal government start protecting Canadians and finally deport those that are connected to government start protecting Canadians and finally deport those that are connected to the Iranian regime?
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Thunder Bay Rainy River.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to pay tribute to a cornerstone of the Thunder Bay community, a great Canadian and a friend, Stephen Wright. Stephen used to say that his hobby was people, and he led his life that way. It was all about service to the community. He worked with Hockey Canada. He created Pro Kids to support underprivileged kids participating in sports, and led no less than 5 winning political campaigns. Stephen was a tireless advocate for healthcare in Northwestern Ontario, school and a cardiac care unit. To every endeavour, Stephen brought his characteristic wisdom, patience, compassion, and sense of humour. Stephen represented the very best of Canada. His impact on Thunder Bay and those who knew him will be felt for many years to come. Stephen, thanks for all you did. We miss you.
The honourable member for Battleford's Lloydminster Meadow Lake.
Mr. Speaker, with rising oil prices, Canada should be well positioned to supply energy to ourselves and our allies. But a decade of Liberal policies has chased away investment and production. Despite the rhetoric, the Prime Minister has not approved a single new pipeline to Tidewater, and his major projects office has not approved a single project. Now, another $8 billion project was put on hold, citing the Liberal industrial carbon tax and regulatory barriers. Canadian consumers used to have some protection when oil prices went up because our dollar did too. But today, we produce less oil, and that protection is gone. Canada has the resources to supply our allies and strengthen our economy. Why won't the Prime Minister get out of the way so we can fuel our allies and power paychecks at home?
The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Mr. Speaker, we've just celebrated International Women's Day. And let us take a moment to recognize how far we've come. The progress that we celebrate today was never inevitable. That progress exists because generation after generation, women have had the courage to challenge that which seemed unchangeable. But this day isn't just a time to look back. It also invites us to look at the world as it is today. And the current context calls for clarity. In many parts of the world, conflicts and crises are hitting women and children very hard. And even in our own societies, certain realities remind us that the road to true equality still has to be built. The rights of women are never definitively acquired. They live, they advance, or they regress depending on the choices that we make as a society. Because ultimately, equality is not built solely through major advances. It's built every time that we choose not to back down.
The honourable member for Regina Luban.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot control what happens abroad, but the Liberals do control the policies that are imposing on Canadians here at home an affordability crisis. Right now, we have the worst food inflation in the G7. and the only shrinking economy in the G7. The Liberal Prime Minister is going ahead with his newly renamed carbon tax, the Clean Fuel Standard. This policy now costs 7 cents a litre, but will rise to 17 cents a litre. This makes everything more expensive for our farmers, fishermen, and those who deliver food to our tables. The industrial carbon tax, which the Liberal Prime Minister will continue to increase, only makes steel, aluminum, plastic, and farm equipment more expensive as well. These costs are imposed at home, not abroad. When will the Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and remove their out-of-touch policies that will make life more affordable for all Canadians?
The Honourable Member for Brossard-Saint-Lambert.
Mr. Speaker, in these times of great geopolitical turbulence, I'm particularly committed to celebrating a multilateral association in which I place a great deal of hope.
Today, around the world, 56 countries are celebrating Commonwealth Day, an occasion to remind us of the commitments we've made to democracy, peace and sustainable development. As chair of the federal branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, I am delighted to invite all members to a reception being held at 6 p.m. today at the Speaker's dining room. I also want to express Canada's delegation's delight when MPP Catherine Fife, a remarkable parliamentarian from Waterloo, Ontario, was elected as chair of the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians in October 2025 in Barbados after earning the support and admiration of a very demanding electorate. Catherine's unapologetic certainty that women are part of the solution and one can insert all manner of challenges here makes her a formidable voice in the Commonwealth family. As a fellow parliamentarian, I want to formally congratulate her and to assure her
The Honourable Member for Oral Questions, Questions Orales, the Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Control what happens abroad, but the Liberals do control the policies that they are imposing that make life more expensive, like the Liberal fuel standard. This is effectively another kind of carbon tax which adds 7 cents a litre and will rise to 17 cents a litre, meaning more costs for drivers, farmers, fishermen, and those who transport us our food. The Liberal Prime Minister is also hiking the industrial carbon tax on steel, aluminum, plastic, and farm equipment. These costs are imposed at home, not abroad, and paid for by Canadians. When will the Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and cancel their policies that make life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs. The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is an energy superpower, and last year Canadian oil production reached a record high. No one can predict the future of energy markets, but our allies are looking for stable, reliable energy supplies in an increasingly uncertain world. That's why we're fast-tracking projects like the Taylor to Gordondale pipeline. That's why we're fast-tracking projects like the Sunrise expansion. That's why the TMX optimization is moving forward. Mr. Speaker, we are helping solve the world's affordability problem.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Well, let's look at the facts. Among the G7, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada now has the worst food price inflation and the only economy that's shrinking. All of this has gotten worse since he became Prime Minister. Instead of helping lower prices by cancelling Liberal taxes, he's driving them even higher. When companies who process, transport, store, or sell food pay more, who does he think all those costs get passed on to? We cannot control what happens in other countries, but we can absolutely control whether or not to drive prices higher with tax increases. Why not at least give Canadians a break from Liberal taxes and cancel the fuel standard tax and the industrial carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's Monday. It seems that my colleague was missing in action. Mr. Speaker, in fact, we're taking back control. The first thing we did was to cut tax for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That is the very first thing we did. And just to correct the record, Mr. Speaker, Canada is projected to have the second fastest growth in the G7, Mr. Speaker. And this morning, Mr. Speaker, we had the G7 finance minister call. We're coordinating our action. We're going to take action together to make sure that we can bring energy to the world, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Meanwhile, here at home, Canadian families, seniors and businesses are still dealing with ideologically flawed economic policies, regulation and legislation that has seen the cost of everything, including food prices in Canada, rise 7.3% in January alone. Taxes imposed on our farmers, fishers, and those who transport our food, as well as the industrial carbon tax, which this Liberal Prime Minister keeps in place, have raised prices on everything made with steel, aluminum, and plastic. Why can't the Liberal Prime Minister do the right thing and remove these failed policies that have caused unnecessary hardship and make life more expensive for our people and our businesses?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when my colleague talks about ideological programs, I surely hope he's not talking about the National Child Care Plan, which has actually reduced costs for Ontario families by $16,000 per child per year here in Ontario. Mr. Speaker, I sure hope he's not talking about a school nutrition program, which families, experts, educators have all sung the praises of for ensuring kids get good food. I sure hope he's not talking about the dental care plan, which is helping low-income Canadians get their teeth fixed. I don't know what he means when he says ideological.
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil.
What I am talking about, Mr. Speaker, is our businesses and our people dealing with self-inflicted wounds, because they are. By failing to eliminate these ideological taxes causing cascading affordability impacts to the ideological, almost hate-driven attacks on our wealth-creating natural resource sector, every problem we have started here at home in 2015 and continues today under this Liberal Prime Minister. Our nation has the worst food inflation in the G7 and the only shrinking economy in the G7. When will the Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and caused by removing policies that have made life more expensive for our people and businesses?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, let me correct the record again. I know my colleagues like to say things in this hour, but you have to be credible. Canada will have the second fastest growth in the G7. That's what's reported by international agencies, Mr. Speaker. But when you're talking to Canadians, because it's Monday, Mr. Speaker, they should talk about the good news for Canadians. The good news is called the Canada Grocery and Essential Benefit, Mr. Speaker, because on this side of the House, we understand that we need to help people now, and it's really interesting to see the Conservative criticizing because they have voted against every program, Mr. Speaker, whether it's about farmer.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is Monday, and once again we get to hear the Minister of Finance's cassette tape there. Last night, Mr. Speaker, I was at the grocery store. The costs of groceries is constantly rising. Eating should not be a privilege. So many Canadians do not have access to this privilege. The cost of food has skyrocketed. If you go to the grocery store and you see a family with 2 boxes of ramen noodles in their grocery carts, it's just wrong. We have the worst food inflation in the G7. The government must take action. When will it eliminate the fuel tax? The Honourable Minister of Finance. I know my colleague likes repeating things. Perhaps he can repeat this to all his fellow citizens. The Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit. That helps 12 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's something he can repeat everywhere he goes in his riding. If he wants to repeat a tape, then he should certainly use that tape, because that will help Canadians further, Mr. Speaker. When we spoke to the UPA, they said take structural measures, and that's exactly what we did. $500 million fund to be managed by my colleague to increase resilience and food security in this country. That's what taking action means. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, let's talk about action. Canada cannot control what the presidents in other countries do, but we can control our destiny. We have energy. Let's develop it. We have critical minerals. Let's access them quickly. We have a housing problem. Let's build houses. We have a food cost problem. Let's eliminate the industrial carbon tax. These are costs we have here at home, not abroad. I invite the Liberal government to use our solutions and implement them. We want to give Canadians some breathing room. When will the Liberal government finally take action. The Honourable Minister of Industry. Look, Mr. Speaker, I'm listening to my colleague. I think he must have read our game plan, except towards the very end. He's basically repeated what we've been saying daily. So there's still room on this side of the House if my colleague wants to join us. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, let's get back to the CURAM software. 85,000 retirees are having problems accessing their pensions, $5 billion in cost overruns, all of which could have been avoided had the Liberals done their homework, because CURAM's been causing problems all over the place. In 2006 in Australia, in 2012, North Carolina, Minnesota 2013, Ontario 2014, Maryland 2019, 20 years now. CURAM has been malfunctioning and costing more than expected. How did the Liberals not fix the bugs before launching CURAM? The Honourable Member.
The program that the member opposite is talking about, CURAM, is used by 20 countries around the world. This is a wild goose chase, and she knows it. 7.7 million Canadians have been successfully transferred to this system. In fact, we are working through the backlog. These are complicated cases, often paper applications. There is a hotline for urgent cases. Urgent cases are getting dealt with within 24 to 48 hours. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect responsible, reliable delivery of benefits, and that's what this modernization provides.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals could have avoided the CURAM fiasco by studying its failures around the world, because it's been going on for 20 years. They could have also listened to the Auditor General, who noted an explosion in costs as early as 2023. In fact, they could have also listened to the Public Accounts Committee, which had been looking into this since 2023. Notably, Nathalie Sinclair-Desgagnés, the former and soon-to-be member of Parliament for Terrebonne. But the Liberals listened to no one, and now they are embroiled in another IT fiasco. When will there be a public and independent inquiry? The Honourable Minister.
That 7.7 million seniors are getting reliable, modern delivery of benefits, and say that this is a disaster. I'm not sure what the member opposite is talking about. She'd have us go back to a system that's 60 years old, Mr. Speaker, paper-based, hackable, Mr. Speaker. It would fail, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the Auditor General said that the old system was so frail that Canadians couldn't count on it. Is that what she wants to keep delivering for Canadians? We're about moving forward with the future, and Canadians expect benefit delivery that's reliable and safe.
The Honourable Member for l'Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, when the Liberals say that CURAM is a success story, they forget to tell us that it's a global success story. La Presse reveals that 5 other states that have implemented CURAM have faced the same problems and cost overruns. This has been going on since 2006 in Australia. That's 20 years. And yet the Liberals have learned nothing from this. The result is 85,000 seniors that are victims, and it is costing us $55 billion in cost overrun. And in the Public Account Committee, the Liberals are filibustering to prevent us from shedding light on this. When will there be an independent public inquiry?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for the question, but they're conflating things. It doesn't make much sense. They should listen to a technical briefing so that they fully understand what this is about. The Bloc Québécois is referring to the Auditor General. In 2014, the Auditor General raised the alarm, saying, deal with this having this 60-year-old system is going to be a failure. You need to modernize, and that's exactly what we did. 7.7 million seniors
7 cents per liter today, and it will rise to 17 cents per liter by 2030, hitting the farmers, fishermen, and the truckers who put food on our tables. And these costs are entirely made in Ottawa by this Liberal government. If the Prime Minister is so focused on what we can control, then why doesn't he stop pointing fingers and scrap the taxes that are making life so unaffordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, I know it's Monday, Mr. Speaker, and on Monday we expect good news. But, Mr. Speaker, what I think we should tell Canadians is actually what this government has been doing in order to make life affordable and this economy competitive. Mr. Speaker, This government has presented one of the most ambitious budget in our history, Mr. Speaker. Generational investment in infrastructure, generational investment in housing, generational investment in productivity and competitiveness, generational investment in our defense. Mr. Speaker, instead of talking the Canadian economy down, they should celebrate our worker, celebrate our Canadian industry, and celebrate our country.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Speaker, the Finance Minister should know better. Those huge deficits, generational deficits, are what's driving inflation up in this country. And now, going back to the cost of food, which was my initial question, they have also failed to drive competition. Instead of keeping these countless taxes on the building blocks of our food supply, they should address them. And the reality is, Mr. Speaker, Canada is falling behind, not because of global forces, but because of their choices. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility and remove these policies that are driving up the cost of food for every Canadian?
Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Down, Minister.
Speaker, on this side of the aisle, we will take responsibility for building the strongest economy of the G7. That I can tell, Mr. Speaker, we'll do that. And we'll do that with Canadian workers. We'll do that with Canadian industry. We'll do that with our partners around the world, Mr. Speaker. We just come from a mission in India and in Australia. I can tell you the world wants what Canada has to offer. We have highly skilled workers. We have strong industries, Mr. Speaker. We build boats, we build cars, we build ships. We have critical minerals. We have energy in abundance. And we are the only G7 country with a free trade with all G7 nations. Mr. Speaker, we believe in Canada on this side of the aisle.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals like to blame global pressures, but the policies driving up the cost of living in Canada are made right here in Ottawa. Canada now has the worst food price inflation in the G7 and the only shrinking economy in the G7. In Newfoundland and Labrador, nearly all groceries arrive by truck or ferry, yet the Prime Minister is pushing ahead with the newly renamed carbon tax, the clean fuel standard, which adds 7 cents a litre, climbing to 17. That will drive up the cost of transporting food right to the grocery shelf. When will the Liberals take responsibility for their policies and stop making life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Speaker, I'm going to follow from my colleague next to me and talk about good news on a Monday. Bay du Nord project.
Yeah.
An example in Newfoundland and Labrador of getting workers on the job in our province, building our economy, building our infrastructure. This is a good news project. And I invite my colleague in the opposition from Newfoundland and Labrador to get on board.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, that's a complete deflection, but if that minister wants to talk about Bay du Nord, she knows it was the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador who fought to see that project move ahead. This government spent years creating barriers, and now that minister is trying to take credit. But that does not answer the question about the cost they are imposing today. Someone recently called my office and said he's been heating his room with his oven because he can't afford to put oil in his tank. When will they take responsibility for the policies they are imposing that is making life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
To know who made that project possible. And then I'm going to say to her that I will never politicize the challenges that people have in our province and in this country and food security. And that's why the programs that we have in place are so important. Actual supports for families, for seniors. I invite this member, and I'm happy to bring her to speed on the programs that exist, but don't politicize what is so important to people's lives.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton-Bikejwanong.
Mr. Speaker, we can't control what happens abroad, but the Liberals do control the policies that they are imposing that make life more expensive for Canadians. Today, we have the worst price inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Policies like the fuel standard that adds 7 cents a litre, rising to 17 cents, will apply to those who bring us our food, while the industrial carbon tax raises the price on steel, aluminum, plastic, and farm equipment. When will the Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and remove their policies that make life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the opposition
talks the economy down, we are building it up. We have a plan to make life more affordable. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We eliminated the consumer carbon tax. We cut the GST for first-time homebuyers. We also have the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, which will add about $1,890 to an average family of 4 this year. Instead of talking the economy down, which is all they do, why don't they join us and build this country up?
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent à Kiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, in 2016, former Mayor of Laval, Vaillancourt, was found guilty of stealing $7 million from Laval residents. Since then, the money's been recovered, returned to the city, and guess what? This Liberal government is asking the city of Laval to write Mr. Vaillancourt a check for $1 million. Not only have the people in Laval been subject to this once, but now that this money is coming out of their pockets from the Liberal government. Can the Minister of Finance tell the Lavallois that the Honourable Minister of Finance? I did not see the individual. I have an impression, but certainly no one can scream out in that way at question period. The question period belongs to those who ask a question and those who answer a question. Where were we? Who had risen? We're not starting again. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, first off, I'd like to thank my colleague. That's a serious question, complex question. I can inform him and the people of Laval that I contacted the Mayor of Laval today, that I actually summoned the Commissioner for the CRA so that we can work hand in hand to find a solution that is in the interest. I'd like to thank the journalist Thomas Gerbet from Radio-Canada who made this situation public. The Revenue Minister did nothing, should have gained inspiration for what was done in Quebec. 2016, a Minister of Finance in Quebec said that to their government was an issue of fairness for citizens of Laval who were the main victims of this issue. Did the Minister of Finance speak with the Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Finance, who took the decision and not simply after a reporting from Radio-Canada? Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, I thank my colleague for his question. Seriously speaking, it's a very complex matter, and I think he should act rigorously because the situation is far more complex than what he is presenting to this House today. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that I contacted the Mayor of Laval this morning myself. I contacted the CRA Commissioner. As I was saying, we are focused on solutions. We will find a solution that is in the interest of the residents of Laval. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, expropriations won't make the high-speed rail project a success, but social license may. Listen to Alto's CEO's response to concerned farmers. He confirms there will be expropriations, and he said, I hope it won't be the main tool. He hopes that expropriation will not be the main instrument used. Mr. Speaker, he confirms that Alto has the means to do this and that it will, if necessary. At this point, I'd say that looks like a threat. When can we expect respect for and real discussions with the people of the North Shore? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is quite sensitive to what's happening in Mirabel, and we will, of course, be working with the mayor as well as other representatives, the UPA, farmers, my colleague, Minister of Transport, and others are working on this very file. At the same time, we know that the high-speed rail project is a good project. But like my colleague says, social license matters, and we are able to do both. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, put yourself in the shoes of the citizens of Terrebonne and Mirabel. Not only is the CEO of Alto confirming that there will be expropriations, but he hopes, quote, that this won't be the main tool that's used. So he confirms that it could happen. Mr. Speaker, our people want respect. The cities of Terrebonne, Mascouche, Mirabel want real consultations on the route. They want local economic benefits. And the North Shore's role in the high-speed rail project will not simply be to be trampled over. Will the Liberals finally demand that also seek social license on this? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
To work together to make major projects happen, and that's what our government's doing. We're maintaining an open dialogue with other levels of government, with farmers, with unions, with all community stakeholders. We need to build this country together, and we're looking forward to the cooperation that's going to happen.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Well, a global surge in oil prices should be a good chance for Canada, home to the 4th largest oil reserves on Earth. But despite the PM's rhetoric and photo ops, there's not one new cross-border export pipeline to anywhere. The costly Major Project Office hasn't approved one yet, and the federal industrial carbon tax drives away Canada's producers like CNRL that just paused an $8 billion project due to regulatory uncertainty. Canada can and should be the world's top energy choice. Why won't the PM get out of the way so Canada can fuel allies and power paychecks at home? Yay!
The Honourable Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, it's Monday, so there's good news. We recently approved the Taylor to Gordondale pipeline. Mr. Speaker, more good news. We announced the Sunrise Pipeline Expansion Project. And Mr. Speaker, the TMX just announced the optimization project, the first of 3 optimization projects to grow our energy exports.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
But none of those are new pipelines for exports. Now, usually high prices mean a high dollar, but Canadians are paying the price. The Liberals promised a Pacific pipeline to remind them, but they keep their unlawful never build anything anywhere build C-69, their drilling and tanker bans, their federal industrial carbon tax that drives away investments, because the more these Liberals say they're different, the more things stay the same. Canadians want pipelines now more than ever, but wait for the Liberals to keep their word. When will the PM, who helped Trudeau kill billions in projects and thousands of jobs, get that Pacific pipeline done for Canadian unity, sovereignty, and accountability?
The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the province of Alberta is really excited about working with us. They're working with us on the MOU, and they've said by the summer they will be coming forward with a proposal for a new pipeline. It would be great if the Conservatives got on board and started working with the government of Alberta and the federal government to build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Despite the government's claim, the Prime Minister has not approved a single new pipeline to Tidewater. Even with sweeping new powers, the Major Project Office has yet to approve a single major project, let alone one in Canada's oil sands. Canada's energy sector could help supply our allies, strengthen our economy at home, diversify our trade, and provide greater economic certainty in an uncertain world. Why won't the Prime Minister support responsible energy development so Canada can help our economy and our allies?
Honourable Minister.
I invite the Conservatives to work with us to grow our energy exports. The province of Alberta is doing that. Why can't they get on board?
Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
We are on board, Mr. Speaker. Rising oil prices should be a major opportunity. Canada is home to the 4th largest oil reserves. Yet, Canada's leading energy companies have been clear. It is the Liberal anti-energy laws that are killing economic growth in our country. Instead of building, we're seeing projects stall. Last week, CNRL paused an $8 billion project because of Liberal anti-development policies and laws. This would have been thousands of jobs in Fort McMurray, Cold Lake, and right across Canada. So why won't they just get out of the way so that we can get pipelines built?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are working with the Alberta government, and guess what? Canadian oil production reached record high last year. Record high. And we're helping with the TMX optimization. We're helping with the Taylor to Gordondale pipeline. We're helping with the Sunrise expansion. Why don't they get on board, Mr. Speaker?
Honourable Member for Medicine Hat.
Speaker, rising oil prices should be an enormous opportunity for Canada's economy, but Liberal anti-energy ideology blocks this sector. Despite grand speeches and meaningless MOUs, the Liberals have failed to approve any pipeline to Tidewater, and their Major Projects Office has done nothing, approved nothing. Canadian energy should stabilize global markets, support our allies, and strengthen our own economy. When will the Prime Minister get out of the way unblock our resources so we can fuel our friends abroad and power paychecks here at home.
The Honourable Minister.
Hopefully the Conservatives will be supportive of us putting the Silesium project to the Major Projects Office. Maybe they'd be supportive of us putting LNG Canada 2 to the Major Projects Office. Maybe they'd be supportive of the TMX optimization. Maybe they'd be supportive of the Taylordale to Gordondale expansion. Maybe they'd be supportive of the Sunrise expansion. We are building Canada. They should get on board.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Last week, thousands of investors, workers, and innovators gathered in Toronto for the PDAC convention, the world's largest mining conference. Canada has the critical minerals that the world needs for electric vehicles, clean technology, and national security. Right. Last week, our government announced new investments to accelerate mining projects and strengthen our supply chains with allies. Could the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources update the House on how Canada will help build mines faster, attract investment, create jobs, and build a strong, resilient Canadian economy?
Great question. The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for her question and for her strong support of the mining sector. At PDAC last week, our government showed that Canada is leading our allies to secure critical mineral supply chains. We announced investments in 22 new projects to help connect mines to markets. Through the Critical Minerals Production Alliance, Canada has secured 30 new deals with 12 different allies to bring 18 billion of new investment to Canadian critical mineral sector.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 4 years since the war in Ukraine began, and it's been 4 years since we called on the government to expedite Canadian LNG exports for allies like Germany. It's been 8 months since Parliament has given the government power to expedite new oil and gas projects for exports to Europe and Asia. Right. And 8 months where not a single new export project like that has been approved. When will the government get serious about Canadian energy policy, or do we have to wait for another 4 years of inaction?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Perhaps the Conservatives weren't here last week. We just approved the Bay du Nord project to export our energy to the world.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, the question was about LNG exports. Exactly. When the war began in Ukraine, it took Germany only 194 days to approve and build a new LNG export facility, and another new 4 facilities were quickly brought online shortly thereafter. Over 194 days ago, this Parliament gave the government unprecedented powers to expedite new gas projects, to expedite LNG for Europe and Asia. And now we have a war in the Middle East. When is the government going to use these new powers and approve new LNG exports for Europe or Asia?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Our government is focused to attract foreign direct investment in this country. Last year alone, we were close to $100 billion attracted to Canada, the highest it's been in close to 18 years. That's something to celebrate, Mr. Speaker. People are looking to our LNG projects, over a handful in various phases of development. LNG Canada 1, first shipment out to Asia. LNG Canada 2 will be the second largest LNG facility in the world. We are there. We are going to export our energy to various places around the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Canada now leads the world in shootings against Jewish institutions. We've heard countless condemnations and been offered endless thoughts and prayers from the Liberal government. They failed to address the fact that terrorists live in Canada, that institutions can't access security funding, that there is zero enforcement of the laws that are already on the books. And I'm going to give the Minister of Public Safety an opportunity. Get up in his chair, say that it's terrorism, and tell this House what he's going to do, when he's going to do it, and how he's going to do it.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me extend my condolences to the communities at Beth Avram Yosef
Toronto, as well as the Shirai Shinomim Synagogue, as well as the Temple Emmanuel, who were shot at last week, Mr. Speaker. I've had the opportunity to meet with many members of the Jewish community, and I can tell you that we absolutely condemn these acts of violence, and we will take every effort to ensure that this does not happen, Mr. Speaker. We're working with law enforcement. We're working with the province as well as the municipalities to ensure the safety and security of all Canadians, particularly Jewish Canadians.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
He still hasn't said a thing. The community does not need the empty condemnations. They need action from a government that has let this spiral out of control for more than 2 years. They've taken every side of the issue except for the side that protects Canadians. Fund the security programs. Hunt down and lock up the people who perpetrate the violence. Enforce the law and deport the terrorists that the minister knows live here in Canada. When is he or anyone in the government going to say any of those things?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me just say, since last November, we have funded over 108 projects relating to Jewish community institutions. But let me also say, Mr. Speaker, this is a moment where all Canadians need to come together, including the Conservative Party. There's a bill right now, Bill C9, that is meant to support and ensure the safety and security of institutions, particularly those who are serving the Jewish community. I've heard from communities across Canada, across the country, Mr. Speaker. It is time for the Conservative Party to act and to ensure that Bill C9 becomes law.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, we tabled a motion asking the Liberal government to immediately add the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to the list of terrorist organizations, but it took the Liberals 6 long years to wake up and do that. And currently, it is estimated that 700 members of the IRGC are still living the good life in Canada. And I hesitate to ask this question, but if it took them 6 years to do something so simple, how much time will it take before they expel these terrorists from Canadian soil? Can the Prime Minister tell us if they will finally take action? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, I can assure the member opposite that the IRGC is listed as a terrorist entity in Canada. Those who are members of the IRGC are facing consequences, Mr. Speaker. They have been removed already. There's a number. We're going through our process to be removed. We will ensure the safety and security of Canadians. This past week, Mr. Speaker, I've had a chance to speak to members of the Iranian community who have highlighted the need for collaboration to ensure that we work together, to ensure that those who belong to terrorist entities are addressed and removed from Canada.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, indeed, we are hearing from the Iranian Canadian community, and they are telling us that it is problematic to have IRGC members on Canadian soil. We're not talking about a couple of people. We're talking about hundreds of people with links to that terrorist organization. It's been years that nothing has been done. Can the minister confirm that there are still 700 of these people on Canadian soil? And will everything be done to clean them out of this country as quickly as possible?
Mr. Speaker, let me share some information with the member opposite. First and foremost, we've had over 18,000 applications for inadmissibility that's been reviewed by the Canada Border Service Agency, Mr. Speaker. We've opened over 170 investigations, and approximately 240 visas have been cancelled by the IRCC. We will continue to ensure the safety and security of Canadians. Our system works. We have listed the IRGC as a terrorist entity, and CBSA is taking efforts to ensure that those who are inadmissible are removed, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
The minister just claimed that they've deported Iranian officials, yet news reports state that they've deported one out of 700. Worse, today the head of the IRB said that she couldn't answer why they agreed to keep a deportation hearing of an Iranian regime official secret. I don't understand this. When will the Liberals start deporting Iranian regime officials?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the CBSA is working to ensure that those who are inadmissible to Canada, who are members of the IRGC, who have held ranks within the IRGC are removed expeditiously. We've already started that process, Mr. Speaker. As you know, we listed the IRGC as a terrorist entity. We've started the removal process. Others are continuing. I just want to highlight that over 240 visas have been canceled by the IRCC in anticipation that their membership in the IRG can constitute inadmissibility to Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, here's a problem. Mahdi Naziri, he was a propaganda distributor, the political deputy of the Iranian regime's Friday Imams Policy-Making Council, and a deputy at the Supreme Leader's office at the UAE. Yet he's still in Canada. Doesn't seem like the CBSA or the minister is doing a very good job. Why have they only deported one of these thugs?
Good question. The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. Members of the IRGC are ineligible, inadmissible to be in Canada, Mr. Speaker. The CBSA are taking...
So I lost the sound on the mic, and there was some other ambient noise as well. So if the honourable minister could, because it's a very important question, if the honourable minister could start from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. Members of the IRGC are inadmissible to be in Canada, Mr. Speaker. The Canada Border Service Agency is removing those individuals who are deemed to be inadmissible, who are members of the IRGC. There's also processes that are being undertaken to ensure the expeditious removal of those individuals. But let me also say the IRCC is taking proactive steps to ensure that those who are ineligible to be here, including 240 individuals who have been refused visas for their alleged involvement with the IRGC.
Well, member for Richmond Hill South.
Conflicts have always existed overseas, but under this Liberal government, we are now seeing those conflicts spill onto our streets here at home. Last week alone, 3 synagogues in the GTA were targeted with gunfire, and now an Iranian dissident has gone missing, possibly a homicide, while members of the community fear the regime in Tehran may be involved. After years of Liberal open border failures and soft on crime policies, hundreds of IRGC regime agents are believed to be living safely here in Canada. When will this Liberal government finally enforce the law, start deporting Iranian regime officials, and protect Canadians here at home?
Here, here. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me just at the outset say if the individual, if my colleague opposite feels that we need to ensure the protection of Canadians, he will support the passage of Bill C-9. The Conservative Party will pass C-9 today, Mr. Speaker. That is how you protect Canadians. That is how you protect communities. That is how you ensure the safety and security of Canadians.
The honourable member for Orleans. Mr. Speaker, the new defense industrial strategy. We'll have to start over. There's too much noise. The honourable member, please. Mr. Speaker, the new industrial defense strategy is a testament to our trust in Canada's industrial capacity and our strength on the international scene. $81 billion to rebuild, rearm and reinvest in our Canadian armed forces. The government has taken concrete action, like investing $900 million in dual-use technology. Can the Minister of Industry tell us about how the strategy will enable us to increase Canada's presence on the global stage and support our industries?
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her excellent question. Yes, we have presented our new industrial defense strategy. We presented it around 2 weeks ago, and we are in action mode. Today, $900 million were announced. My colleagues for defense and military procurement announced this investment for a new drones center, as well as a new bombardier aircraft made here in Canada. We are creating jobs in Mississauga and Saint Laurent and in Abbotsford in BC. We are creating jobs across the country.
Member for Calgary Heritage.
Under these Liberals, foreign conflicts have spilled onto our streets. Their politics and their soft-on-crime agenda have made Canadians unsafe. 3 GTA synagogues shot, 700 IRGC agents roaming our streets. We've heard only condemnations and thoughts and prayers. An Iranian dissident has now gone missing, with police probing a possible Tehran-linked homicide. Liberal ministers failed to secure borders and failed to deport hundreds of IRGC agents. Decide today. Deport these agents of terror today.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, shame on them. We have a law in this House that they could vote for. It was exactly what the Jewish community had asked for, to make sure that they were safe, that we are safe where we pray. They're voting against. By voting against it, they're also voting to keep it legal to display swastikas on our streets. So shame on them if they're talking about safety.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Heritage. Okay, let's. We're almost at the finish line for the question period. The Honourable Member for Calgary Heritage.
No action, no details, no surprise. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is all over the map with 4 positions in 4 days. He supported the decisions of our allies in confronting the Iranian regime at first as legitimate and lawful. Then he regretted the strikes. Then he wouldn't rule out Canadian military action. Even his own caucus doesn't know what his position is. All this with a regime that has killed 150 Canadians on a passenger plane and continues to intimidate Canadians. Our people want to know what he's doing to secure us here at home. When will Liberals finally deport IRGC officials?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to clarify the government's position for my honourable colleague. Successive.
Yes, I would like to hear the clarification. Absolutely. Yeah, the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, for the benefit of my honourable colleague, allow me to clarify that successive Canadian governments have held that Iran is the principal source of terror in the region. That is why, more than 18 months ago, Canada declared the IRGC as a terrorist entity. That is why Canada supports all efforts to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. That is why we have declared Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism. All parties have to comply with the rules of international law, Mr. Speaker, and we will work to bring Canadians home safely. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Heritage. Aurora Oak Ridges.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have successfully failed to address the fact that we have terrorists in our streets and there has been zero enforcement of the laws that are already in place. This is happening because the 7 Liberal immigration ministers in the last 10 years have failed to protect our borders, Mr. Speaker, and now hundreds of Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps agents safely reside in Canada, many in my community in Richmond Hill, because Liberal public safety minister after Liberal public safety minister have failed to deport them. Mr. Speaker, when will this Liberal government finally start the
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Department at IRCC have a rigorous process for vetting all applicants who are applying for a visa. In addition, we encourage the opposition to vote in favor of C9, Mr. Speaker, which they are refusing to do. And finally, Mr. Speaker, let me clarify again that on this side of the House, the Iranian regime is a terrorist entity. It is a state sponsor of terrorism. We encourage all parties to respect the rules of international conflict and engagement, and we will work to bring Canadian citizens home safely, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our national parks are national treasures that all Canadians take pride in. 2 years ago, Canadians across the country watched in horror as a monster fire ripped through Jasper National Park, causing thousands to evacuate. and leaving many without their homes and businesses. In this crisis, the town has shown all of us how strong, united, and resilient Canadians are. Can the minister responsible for Jasper recovery speak to the whole of government coordination that is moving critical recovery and rebuilding projects forward?
Excellent question.
The Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, as an Albertan, I understand the special place that Jasper holds in the hearts of Albertans and Canadians. Last week in Jasper, I announced that our government provided more than $14 million for new housing units to support the people that live and work there. This is in addition to the over $380 million that our government's already provided for recovery. As ministerial lead for Jasper, I'll ensure that Jasper, a place of unparalleled natural beauty, remains a place that Jasperites continue to visit.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, last week a convicted first-degree murderer was released unescorted in Oshawa for 72 hours. This man tortured, raped, and murdered a 14-year-old boy and then threw his body in a garbage room.
Shameful.
Durham Regional Police said he's currently a significant risk and told Oshawa residents to stay vigilant. Will the Prime Minister condemn this decision by the Parole Board of Canada and work with Conservatives to ensure that child killers serve their full sentences and are not released and walking our streets?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the matter this member brings up, Mr. Speaker, is a decision that was made by the Parole Board of Canada, which is an independent entity of government. Let me also say, Mr. Speaker, in order to ensure the safety and security of our children, to ensure that those children who are exploited, we need lawful access as law in Canada, Mr. Speaker. That's why I'm concerned when the Conservative Party absolutely does not move forward on important legislation like C2 and C9, yet pontificates here because they are doing this for the click and bait, Mr. Speaker. What is important is that we pass legislation that's critical for this.
The Honourable Member for Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On February 28th, the United States and Israel launched illegal attacks against Iran. Lloyd Axworthy, former foreign minister of this country, wrote in the Toronto Star that day, Canada once rejected America's aggressive, unlawful foreign policy. Today, the Prime Minister embraced it. He went on to say, and I quote, under the United Nations Charter, cross-border uses of force are prohibited except in two narrow cases. He points out Operation Epic Fury applies to neither. I will ask today, will the Prime Minister belatedly
the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, while we support Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon, this support is not a blank check. Canada reaffirms that international law binds all parties. All actors, including the United States and Israel, must respect the rules of international engagement. There are established international processes for making determinations about international law, and our immediate priority is going to be on de-escalation and the safety of security of civilians and working, Mr. Speaker, to bring Canadians.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's it for question period today. Alors, on va passer bientôt aux affaires.
We'll move to routine proceedings in just a moment, but we'll give time for members to leave the chamber if they should so desire.
So I think we'll proceed now. If members can leave quietly, we'll proceed with daily routine of business. Affaires courantes ordinaires. Collègues, s'il vous plaît.
Colleagues, please. Some silence, please. Tabling of documents. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. Presenting reports from committees. Introduction of private members' bills.
Mr. Albus, seconded by Ms. Conant, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Canada Post Corporation Act. The motion is deemed adopted. The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to introduce a bill seconded by the MP for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay that brings long overdue modernization and national consistency to how Canadians can buy and ship Canadian wine, beer and spirits across provincial borders. As the Prime Minister often reminds us, we should focus on what we can control. And Mr. Speaker, this Parliament can control this. Canada should be our own best customer, not a place where our products, where our producers face some of their toughest barriers here at home. Right now, it's still easier for a BC winery to ship to Texas than to Toronto. That makes no sense to consumers, for small producers, or for a modern Canadian economy. And this bill creates a simple national framework for direct-to-consumer shipping. It ensures Canada Post provides consistent interprovincial service and allows trusted carriers that follow the same standards to compete and offer Canadians more choice and better service. It replaces a patchwork system of outdated provincial rules with a single, predictable coast-to-coast system. Now, this matters for small wineries, craft breweries, distilleries that want to reach customers across the country. It matters for Canadians who want to access the best of every region, and it matters for Parliament because this is something positive, practical, and long overdue. Mr. Speaker, I hope we can move past the prohibition era, the interprovincial trade barriers that still dog our country, by working together across all parties to modernize a system Canadians have waited for far too long. I would gladly work with all parties on accelerating this private members bill, or have the Minister of Finance include this framework in his next Budget Implementation Act. And if this Parliament can pass this bill, then yes, we can finally free the grapes, raise our spirits to a glorious pan-Canadian toast from coast to coast to coast. Mr. Speaker, let's free the beer!
Mr. Albus, seconded by Ms. Conant, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. This motion is deemed adopted. When shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House.
First reading of this bill, première lecture de ce projet.
Okay, where are we now? Dépôt de projet. Première lecture de projet.
First reading of Senate public bills. Motions. Presenting petitions.
The Honourable Member for Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an issue of deep concern to members of Saanich, Gulf Islands and across Canada. I think every MP in this place knows the scandal that people living with disabilities in this country are far more likely to be living in poverty. We voted and worked on this place to get the Canadian disability benefit through, but at this point, the Canadian disability benefit does not lift people up out of poverty. And at this point, so the petitioners are asking this House to look at the reality that the financial pressures from rising costs are disproportionately falling on these same people with disabilities across Canada, and that any disability support and emergency support they receive ends up occasionally being clawed back, and it is not treated as a benefit that they can keep. So petitioners are being very specifically relying on all these facts, calling on the government to fix the Canadian disability benefit, alleviate financial pressures, and ensure that every person with disabilities across Canada and receiving any disability support receive a one-time emergency support, $5,000 tax-free, not means tested, and that can't be clawed back by any order of government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Manning.
Signatures on a petition that Canadians are concerned that the Liberal bloc amendments to Bill C9 could be used to criminalize passages from the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and other secret texts. The state has no place in the religious texts of teaching of any faith community. Freedom of expression and freedom of religion are fundamental rights and must be preserved. Therefore, we, the underside, call on the Liberal government of Canada to protect religious freedom, uphold the right to read and share sacred texts, and prevent government overreach into matters of faith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Peace River, Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This petition comes from many across the country, Christians that are concerned about the effects of Bill C-9 and its effects that could criminalize passages of the Bible. The state has no place in the religious texts or teachings of any faith community. Freedom of expression and freedom of religion are fundamental rights that must be preserved. Therefore, we, the undersigned, call on the Liberal Government of Canada to protect religious freedom, uphold the right to read and to share sacred texts, and prevent government overreach into matters of faith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Richmond Centre, Marlpole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Richmond Centre, Marlpole, and hundreds of thousands of Canadians across the country are standing against Bill C-9 and the protection of religious freedom in Canada. The petitioners note that the Liberal bloc amendment adopted at committee removed the good faith religious defense from the criminal code. They warn that this change would allow the state to persecute individuals for sharing passages from sacred texts such as the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah, and other religious teachings if those views are deemed offensive. Canadians understand that freedom of expression and freedom of religion are cornerstones of a free society. People of faith should never have to wonder whether expressing their beliefs will bring the power of the state to their doorstep.
Is the honourable member, is he doing a summary of the, is he doing a summary, or is he reading a statement? Because we have to, the point of this part of the day is to summarize petitions, and I know there's a tendency to go a little further, but so if the member could summarize it rather quickly.
Just go on. Therefore, the petitioners call on the government of Canada to withdraw Bill C-9 and protect the rights of Canadians to read, share, and speak their religious conviction freely. And I have another petition, and the petitioners are showing serious concern about C-9 and amendments adopted at the Justice Committee. The petitioners believed that these changes remove long-standing protections for good faith religious expression, and they fear this could allow the state to intrude into religious teachings, sacred texts, and the peaceful expression of deeply held beliefs. They affirm that freedom of expression and freedom of religion are fundamental rights in Canada, and they should be protected from government overreach. Therefore, the petitioners call on the government of Canada to withdraw Bill C-9 and to uphold and protect religious freedom, including the right to read, share, and teach sacred texts without fear of criminal sanction. The last one that I'm going to present is on the same theme. Petitioners warn that moving the good faith religious defense from the criminal code risks criminalizing the reading and sharing of sacred texts, including the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah. They believe these options. They believe this opens the door to persecuting Canadians for expressing deep-held religious beliefs. They remind this House that freedom of religion and freedom of expression are fundamental rights of free and democratic society. Therefore, the petitioners call on the Government of Canada to withdraw Bill C-9 and to protect religious freedom by preventing government intrusion into matters of faith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail Eagle Creek.
I am pleased to rise today to table two petitions on behalf of Canadians who are concerned about the implications of Bill C-9. The petitioners believe that freedom of expression and freedom of religion are fundamental rights that must be preserved. They believe that Liberal Bill C-9 is an infringement on those rights. As such, they call on this House to withdraw Bill C-9 and prevent government intrusion into matters of faith. Thank you.
The
honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to table a petition on behalf of the people of Saint-Martin-de-Beauce who are concerned about problems with the cellular network in the region. In Saint-Martin, there is a weak or inexistent cell network, the difficulty of making reliable calls to family members, businesses, or to emergency services has created social, safety and economic problems that have an impact on the people of Saint-Martin. Mr. Speaker, the people of Saint-Martin are asking telecommunications providers and relevant stakeholders to take concrete measures to improve their cellular network and that this issue be recognized as a regional priority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to present a petition directed to the Government of Canada. The petitioners are concerned that the Liberal bloc amendment to Bill C-9 could potentially criminalize the reading or the teaching of certain passages of the Bible, the Quran, the Quran and the Torah, and are concerned that this government should take note of that and immediately withdraw those amendments and also shelve Bill C-9.
The honourable member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise today in regards to presenting a petition where many people have reached out to my office and contacted me repeatedly from various faith communities concerned about Bill C-9. This petition calls upon there to be free expression and the protection of freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and freedom of belief, these fundamental rights. And I can't help but think of Canada's 13th Prime Minister, Sir John G. Diefenbaker, when he said, "I am Canadian, a free Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship God in my own way, free to stand for what I think is right, free to oppose what I believe wrong, and free to..."
Just a moment. Yes. Yes, I'm not sure if that was that in the petition. I'm not sure.
Mr. Speaker, it is in the spirit of the petition.
In the spirit of the petition, yes. Mr. Diefenbaker was a great orator, that's for sure. The honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honour to table this petition that was collected by the National Union of Public and General Employees. They call on the government, Mr. Speaker, first they highlight that wildland and forest firefighters across Canada perform life-threatening public safety duties, including wildfire suppression, evacuations, and the protection of communities, ecosystems, property, and critical infrastructure during increasingly severe wildfire seasons. They also highlight, Mr. Speaker, that climate change has led to longer, hotter, and more destructive wildfire seasons, placing wildland forest fighters at growing risk to their physical and mental health. However, they routinely deploy across provinces and territories and internationally to provide emergency response. And despite performing the same dangerous work as other firefighters, wildland forest fighters are excluded from the firefighter category in the National Occupational Classification, a misclassification, Mr. Speaker, that limits their access to recognition, benefits, and protections available to other firefighters and public safety workers. They therefore call on the government to immediately correct the miscalculation of wildland forest firefighters in the National Occupational Classification by recognizing them as firefighters, and lastly, to remove any and all federal barriers that prevent wildland forest firefighters from being recognized as the firefighters and public safety workers that they are. Thank you.
Honourable member for Vancouver East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to table a petition that's actually from the residents of Victoria, and they asked me to table this because the MP from Victoria would not do so. The petitioners noted that Canada has acceded to the Arms Trade Treaty in 2019 and noted that the promise was made to Canadians that Canadian arms and components and weaponry would not be used against human rights violations and against humanity. However, they noted that there's a significant loophole in that the United States exports to the United States does not require any permitting. In fact, the vast majority of the exports to the U.S. do not require any permitting and therefore no risk assessments. And that there's been credible reports indicating that Canadian arms has been used in various conflicts, including Gaza, in Israel, in Sudan, in Yemen, and so on, killing civilians in violation of international humanitarian law. Therefore, the petitioners are calling on the House of Commons to enact legislation to close the existing loopholes in Canada's arms export laws, including removing exemptions for the United States, strengthening oversight, and ensuring that Canadian arms are never used to commit or facilitate human rights abuses.
Member for Stormont Dundas Glengarry.
It's an honor to rise and table a petition on behalf of my constituents. I've had the honor of doing so on behalf of hundreds already and adding hundreds of more names. Protecting religious freedom in Bill C-9, which is very topical here today as the Liberals and Bloc attempt to ram through that legislation here. And whereas Canadians are concerned that the Bloc Liberal amendments to Bill C-9 could be used to criminalize passages from the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and other sacred texts, and whereas the state has no place in the religious text or teachings of any faith community. I hear from residents over and over again of all the challenges we face in this country. Making this amendment, putting this through, and putting all the effort that the Liberals and Bloc are putting in is something they're not hearing. We need to protect religious freedom, and I'm glad to add my voice in these petition areas to that effort. Thank you.
Member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, Conservative petitioners in Mission Matsqui Abbotsford are concerned about the recreational fishery, specifically related to coho and chinook. They are imploring the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans to listen to both Conservatives and Liberals to scrap her policy proposal and maintain recreational access for all British Columbians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson Nicola.
Always a pleasure to rise on behalf of people from Kamloops, Thompson Nicola, and on this occasion, Mr. Speaker, I do so to present a petition that cautions the way Bill C-9 is proceeding, that it will silence people when it comes to their religious texts and will lead to persecution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to put forward this petition.
Honourable Member for Red Deer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present this petition on behalf of my constituents, calling on the government to support Bill C-218. Petitioners write that Canadians with mental illness should be provided with treatment and support, that mental illness is complex and can include suicidal thoughts as symptoms, and that the lives of Canadians with mental illness will be at risk when they are eligible for medical assistance in dying on the basis of mental illness alone, especially when treatment and support are not readily available. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, petitioners call on the House of Commons to support Bill C-218, which would reverse the law extending eligibility for MAID to people with mental illness as their sole medical condition. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for York Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm presenting a petition today on behalf of my residents and my community on Bill C-9 and the proposal by the Liberal and the Bloc members of this House to remove long-standing safeguards that protect religious freedom and religious expression, including religious expression based on sacred text. My petitioners note and share the desire to combat hate and acts that propagate hate, but note that this proposal would not achieve those goals and would instead subject those who hold sincerely held religious beliefs to criminal prosecution. Therefore, they're calling on the government to do two things, Mr. Speaker. First, to withdraw this proposal entirely, and second, to promote and protect religious freedom for all Canadians, uphold their right to read, share, and teach sacred texts, and prevent government overreach into matters of faith.
Briefly, the Honourable Member for Bull River.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on behalf of my constituents and members for the riding of Bow River and, in fact, constituents across the country to present a petition from Canadians that are concerned that the Liberal Bloc amendments to Bill C-9 could be used to criminalize passages from the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and other sacred texts. The state has no place in the religious texts or teachings of a faith community, and freedom of expression and freedom of religion are fundamental rights that must be preserved. Therefore, the undersigned call on the Liberal government, the Government of Canada, to protect religious freedom and uphold the rights to read and share sacred texts and prevent government overreach into matters of faith.
Questions on the order paper?
Mr. Speaker, I would ask that all questions be allowed to stand at this time, please.
Read. D'accord, tout le monde est d'accord. Demande de...
Request for emergency debate. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I sent you a missive this morning at 8 a.m., Mr. Speaker, calling for an emergency debate as soon as possible relating to the escalation in violence in Iran. I know the situation has changed with respect to the debate. I did want to share about the urgency of this debate. The events in the last several days are evidence of the urgency, and the Government of Canada needs to act. Parliament needs to address issues with respect to the safety of our troops, the nature of our engagement with our fellow allies and the situation of Canadian nationals and the humanitarian crisis that could result from this war. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to draw this to your attention as I did this morning at 8 a.m. And of course, I thank you for your attention. I thank the honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. But as I presume he is well aware, the House this morning agreed to a take-note debate this evening on this very matter, a very urgent and important matter with respect to peace in the world. Orders of the day.
Government orders, government bills, commons, resuming consideration at second reading of Bill C-20, Build Canada Homes Act.
The honourable member for, it was, is it Thornhill? No. The honourable member for Stormont Dundas Glengarry has 3 minutes remaining.
Just in questions and comments, Mr. Speaker.
Comments. We were at questions and comments? Okay. The honourable member for the honourable parliamentary secretary to the government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's important to recognize that it's substantial legislation that is designed and meant to support Canadians in all regions of the nation in regards to recognizing the issue of housing and working with different levels of government, working with the many stakeholders that are out there, all in an attempt to increase Canada's housing stock and making it more affordable in many different ways. I'm wondering if the member opposite would not concede that it is important that a national government play a significant role, and that's what our new Prime Minister and this government has done by bringing forward Bill C-20.
The honourable member for Stormont Dundas Glengarry.
Well, what I look at is the record of the Liberals over the course of the last 10 and a half years, and they brought in many pieces of major legislation and many strategies to try to make housing more affordable in this country. They had the National Housing Strategy, the Housing Accelerator Fund, and now they've got Bill C-20 adding a fourth bureaucracy now with the Building Canada Homes. And what has happened over the course of their record, every time they've added a new piece of legislation or come up with a new strategy, the cost of housing in this country has doubled. The cost of rent has doubled in this country, and at a time when we need to get more shovels in the ground and build more homes, we're actually seeing that pace slow down. So forgive me if we don't take and want to give credit to the Liberals, because every time they keep reintroducing new legislation, their record is one of failure. On this side of the House, we're talking about doing things not legislatively to add more bureaucracy, but to get rid of it by taking the GST off of all new home builds under $1.3 million. That's a concrete way we can lower housing prices immediately.
Comments, questions et commentaires. Questions and comments. The honourable member for York Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for his question. We've heard a lot of promises from the other side going back years and years and years. There was a Housing Accelerator Fund. There were promises of hundreds of thousands of new homes. I'd like to get his opinion on whether this new promise, dressed up in old trappings, is going to achieve any of the results that we hope it will.
Member of Stormont Dundas Glengarry, 50 seconds or less.
Well, if the past is any indication, we're in for higher costs when it comes to housing and to rent, and more red tape and bureaucracy when it comes to the system of trying to improve housing in this country. And actually, my colleague that asked the question, he and I both served in municipal politics quite at a young age, but one of the things the Liberals have broken their promise on, they could have done it in the budget, they did not. They could have done it in this piece of legislation, and they have not. And that has addressed the cost of development charges in this country by municipalities. The Liberals promised during the election, as did Conservatives, that we would cut in half the cost of development charges. The Liberals are breaking their promise, which is adding tens of thousands of dollars in many cities to the cost of housing. They need to keep their promise, not just add more layers and bureaucracy. That's not going to solve the problem.
Resuming debate, reprise de débat, the honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, listening to this debate, as I have been, you wouldn't know it, but there is a quiet but growing anxiety in the country. You can feel it in conversations around the community, those who work in our offices, the people who you potentially go to school with, the ones on the pickleball court. You hear a pause before a young couple answers a question, so when are you buying? You see, the construction worker who's constantly checking the listings, the articles about litigation for those who were so close but just couldn't close on what they bought pre-construction. But the housing market in Canada is not just cooling, it's absolutely cracking for these people, for people who want to get into the housing market. In Toronto, starts have fallen to 30-year lows. Last month, fewer than 300 homes and fewer than 100 condos sold in the entire city. That's nearly 90% below average. And 75% of people who don't own a home in that city believe that they never will own a home. Think about that. That's now a story in Canada. 3/4 of people who don't own a home will have already given up on the idea that they will own a home. I repeated that because I want you to let that sink in. This is a country where the dream of home ownership has always been there and should continue to be there. It's not a market correction, it's not a cycle, it's an entire generation losing faith in what their parents and grandparents and those...
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole. And I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.